Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is a third trimester video. I'm still pregnant, very much pregnant. I have just turned 36 weeks. So yeah, we've got about, well, I say it could be any time after 37 weeks really, it could be any time anyway. Max came a day late, so he was actually 41. So I have no idea when this baby boy is planning to make his appearance, but life is just so busy and hectic, and we've got Christmas coming up, my birthday is around the corner, and I just didn't know if I was going to get a chance to film a third trimester video for you guys unless I do it now. So I thought, do you know what, I'll just give you guys an update of everything that's happened up until this point, and then yeah, that'll be it, and then potentially after that it'll be sort of the birth story and stuff. So I did exactly what I did last time. Max is actually sleeping in his bed, so I'm trying not to be too loud, but I did what I did last time and I just wrote down a load of stuff so that I could remember a few bits. Honestly, my third trimester has been nothing but stress and just chaos, and yeah. I mean, it started off fine. Obviously, third trimester starts at 28 weeks. Still like the same sort of symptoms that I've had pretty much the whole way through the pregnancy. Sickness being one of them. I was sick this morning. Heartburn has got a lot worse, which is just, it's the most awful feeling, guys. Some new I suppose like symptoms of like the pregnancy in the third trimester have been like pelvic pain, obviously like the feeling of just feeling like really heavy, and lightning crotch. If you don't know what lightning crotch is, get to know. It is painful. It is literally just like sharp kind of like stabbing pains in your private parts, which is not great. But I had all of this with Max in my third trimester, so it feels pretty similar, obviously. Gosh, did I forget about the lightning crotch? And then it made its vengeful reappearance. So but yeah, I just feel very, very heavy at the moment. I'm very tired still. Physically everything feels like a lot of effort at the moment. So yeah, pretty much all of the same symptoms, but I thought I would just update you guys on I suppose just like some of like the more major things that have happened in this third trimester. The first thing was that I actually had a trip to A&E, and I was 29 weeks and 5 days. So a couple of days before this A&E trip, I had had a few sort of like lightheadedness spells, dizzy spells, whatever you want to call them, and I, to the point where I had to actually lay on the floor. The first time was actually Harry was home, thankfully, but I just came over really dizzy and I had to like lay on the floor quickly because I thought, oh gosh, if I fall I'm going to hurt myself or hurt the baby. And it passed within maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and I kind of just thought, oh, maybe I'm just not drinking enough. If you guys know me, I don't drink enough, hence why I've got this now, and I'm really trying to drink more. But I kind of just thought maybe I've overdone it, I'm just tired, like really exhausted, and but then it kept happening. So I was having like sort of dizzy spells quite often throughout the days for probably about 2 days. So I called maternity triage and just explained about the dizzy spells, and they said, oh, is baby moving? I said, yeah, he's moving fine. So they said there's not really anything they can do on their part as long as baby's okay. So they said they would recommend calling the GP. I managed to get an appointment for the evening, and I actually had to ask my neighbour to take me and Max to the GP, because Harry's work wouldn't let him leave. There was like a big palaver with that. My family couldn't get down in time for the appointment, and there was like some miscommunication between everyone, and yeah, it was just a bit all over the place. So I was already feeling obviously anxious because I'm like obviously petrified that I'm gonna pass out and it's just me and Max. Obviously anxious because I have no idea what's wrong with me, and then trying to sort out arrangements and things like that. My neighbour, she was so lovely, bless her. She was like, anytime. I literally burst into tears when I said to her, I was like, please will you take me to the GP? But she was so, so lovely. So yeah, she took me and Max to the GP, and then Harry actually ended up meeting us at the GP because he managed to leave work about an hour early, I think it was. So I went into the GP. The GP said that my heart rate was quite high, but I didn't have any other symptoms, like no fever, no, literally nothing. So they did a quick ECG at the GP, and they were like, no, I think you should go to A&E and get checked. and they also wanted to find out if there were any thyroid issues in the family, which there are. So he wanted me to go to A&E for emergency bloods to check the thyroid as well. From there, my mum and my sister Becca came and got me, and they took me to A&E, and Harry stayed with Max. I felt that was the best option at the time, and it was the first time that Max has ever gone to sleep without me. And Harry did so well. I think he was really stressed, obviously, about me, about baby, and then obviously for himself, like trying to get Max to sleep and organising Max and everything, because normally Max goes to sleep on the boob, as you all well know. So got to A&E, it was absolutely packed. It was Friday night, so of course it was. I went in for another ECG, I had bloods done, and the woman there said that my heart rate was really high. Now, take it in mind, like, I'd already said to the GP, you know, like, I am pregnant. I thought it was quite normal for it to be a little bit more elevated, especially in the third trimester, like, I'm so close to the end, and, you know, all of that. But obviously everyone that I'd spoke to was like, nope, it's really high. So I was, like, obviously really worried. I then had, like, a drip. They thought maybe potentially I was dehydrated, which, again, I mean, I don't drink great. I have definitely been better in more recent weeks, but I just get so distracted, and yeah, there's no excuse for it really. But I thought, oh okay, they're doing a drip, maybe it's just that, maybe I'm just dehydrated. So basically in total I was waiting 14 hours to be seen by a doctor. 14 hours in A&E. I don't even know what time we left. I'm sure it was like 8 something in the morning. And the doctors had all changed over and everything, and basically the doctor said to me, we don't do thyroid testing in A&E because obviously it's an emergency department. I was like, oh, well, I said, well, that's what the GP told me, like, they told me to come here for that. She was like, we don't do that, your GP will have to organise that themselves. So that was the first kind of like kick in the teeth, and I was like, I've been up here 14 hours for you to tell me that. The second kick in the teeth was that she said, oh, although your heart rate is high, she said, you are in your third trimester, which is exactly what I said. So yeah, that was the second kick in the teeth. She did say that potentially it could be linked to dehydration. Maybe I was a little bit dehydrated. She also said that potentially it could be sort of like panic attacks, and just sort of like linked to like my mental health. I've touched on this briefly in my second trimester video. Again, there was nothing that they could do specifically for me in A&E, so I was basically up there all that time for them to tell me things that I kind of already knew, or that the GP should have known. So anyways, that was that. I was told to contact my doctor's surgery to organise the blood tests, and contact the mental health team, or my midwives could contact the mental health team, because I still hadn't heard from them at this point. So I was, what, 29 weeks and 5 days. The following week I contacted the GP, organised the blood test. I have had the blood test now, but I haven't had any results back yet, and I contacted my midwife and asked them to recontact the mental health team, which they did do. But pretty much within maybe 3 days, like after visiting A&E, I had what I thought was basically a chest infection. So yeah, I was like really unwell with this like cough and chest infection. I think I said it in my second trimester video where I was like, I've really not been well, I'm still not feeling well. Because when I filmed it, I had literally had this cough from September, and then I got a brand new one literally in October, the end of October, when I visited A&E. And that was probably the worst cough I'd had since September. But it was really on my chest, and then Max got ill pretty much straight away. So yeah, it's just been just like so stressful with all of this sort of illness and like not knowing what was going on. And I kind of felt like after the whole A&E trip and like speaking to the GP and whatnot, I still kind of felt like really in limbo. Like I had no idea why I was having these dizzy spells, or what was going on. I would say probably within like a week, 2 weeks maybe. I can't really remember exactly, but the dizzy spells kind of have just disappeared. I've been drinking more, but I actually do think that they were probably more sort of like panic attacks. Harry's not been able to leave work very often. My family don't live like around the corner from me. They don't live really far, but they don't live around the corner from me. And I think I was maybe just getting in my head a little bit about, you know, making sure that Max was okay if anything happened to me, and obviously we're getting closer and closer to the birth and things like that. So I think I had a lot of stress and a lot of worries about just loads of things, and I think that was probably sort of, I think the dizzy spells were kind of like stress induced. Thank God I have not had really any dizzy spells since then, so hoping that it will stay that way. I mentioned in my second trimester video that we have a consultant involved. I'm not going to go too much into detail about it all. I did kind of explain it in the second trimester video, but just briefly, in case you've not watched that video, it was originally for a mental health referral, and then it kind of turned into, well, your BMI is like a point over, and you're having babies close together, and your baby might be small or big, and talking about gestational diabetes, which I explained, all of that came back fine. But we did end up having our first growth scan. I was 32 weeks and 2 days when I had the growth scan. I went with my mum and dad. My mum came in the scan with me, and my dad looked after Max, because you're not allowed to take children into the scans. And Harry could not get it off work at all. Honestly, I think I had worked myself up at the beginning when I first found out about the consultant, and just, you know, getting into my head, worrying about what was going to happen and what they were going to tell us and things like that. And honestly, by the time that this scan had come round, I really didn't think anything was going to come of it. I really thought they were going to say, yeah, absolutely, there's no issue, like, it's fine, you know. I didn't really expect anything. I think I just, by this point, I had like kind of relaxed about it all. I never had like growth scans with Max. Max was £7.7, so I think by this point I just kind of relaxed about it and didn't really think too much of it. Anyways, I went into the scan with my mum, and obviously we saw baby's heartbeat, and it's quite hard at this point to really see baby properly on a bigger scale, because he's obviously getting so big now. At the end of the scan, she said, oh, let me plot all of the like the measurements, like the growth measurements, and just see if you're okay to go home. So I was like, okay, fine. And again, I'm like really thinking like there's no issue. And then she said, I would like you to go downstairs, and basically we're gonna get you to see a consultant. And I was like, what for? What's wrong? And she said that there was some blood flow restriction, and that baby was a little bit small. So I was really shocked. I was really, really shocked, and I really didn't know, like, I don't really even know how to explain my reaction. So I called Harry and just like let Harry know. And I said, we're waiting to see, like, I had to go like to a different part, and like they said, oh, we're going to get you to see a consultant. So I said to Harry, like, we're waiting to see the consultant, I'll let you know what they say after, and then if you need to come, I'll call you, and obviously you can make your way here. So yeah, we went to a different part, gave my notes and everything, and said that we needed to have like some sort of scan review. And yeah, I was called in to see a consultant. Basically, my last scan with the NHS would have been at 20 weeks, which was the anomaly scan, and baby was measuring at the 50th centile, and in this scan, the 32-week scan, the growth scan, he was measuring on the 14th centile. Obviously, it's like 12 weeks difference. She said it's still within the normal range, but obviously his weight has dropped, and obviously they've also seen that there's like restriction of blood flow to the placenta, which could be the reason why he's not growing at the same rate, basically. Obviously I had loads going on with the whole A&E trip and the dizzy spells and, you know, whatever. So basically the specialist consultant that I saw, she just said, right, we'll do some obs, and I think they wanted, like, I think I did a urine sample, I can't actually remember now. But they did like my blood pressure and things like that, and like all of that was fine. They said like my heart rate was slightly elevated, but the midwife that was there was like, it's absolutely fine, and that basically there was nothing that I could do to help the blood flow issue. There was nothing that I could do obviously about his actual growth. It was literally just wait until the next scan, and obviously if there was any reduced movements, to go straight to the hospital. So I kind of came out, and I was like to my mum, like, I'm going to call Harry and let Harry know. And as soon as I called Harry, I burst into tears, because I was just like I said, just not expecting any of this. And the fact as well that it's kind of like, well, there's nothing you can do about it, just go home. It's like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, how do you just carry on like with normal life when you know that, like, there's potentially this issue, and the baby's going to be small, and what if he stops growing, and, you know, what if he doesn't keep growing at the rate that they want him to grow at, and things like that. So it's all of these questions. And as I said, like with Max's pregnancy, it was very straightforward, and I say very straightforward, but it was a healthy pregnancy. It was quite straightforward, and I never had like any of these, I suppose, like scares or worries or anything like that. My worries were about completely different things with my pregnancy with Max. That was what happened. And then I had 2 more growth scans booked in, like following that. So someone called me and booked the 2 scans in, basically. Max has just woke up, so he's just sitting here having a snack on the bed. I'll try and speed through the rest of this quickly, so it might be a bit all over the place. So yeah, the week following the growth scan, I had like just flu vaccine, just like general bits and bobs. Then I also had a call from the mental health team, and they basically just did an assessment, and they said that at this point in time, they think they can offer some sort of... What, baby? What happened? Your mummy's sitting on the ball today, isn't she? Yeah, they basically said that they can offer anxiety management, but it just is not something that I can't commit to any more appointments right now. It's just too much going on, and that was making me anxious in itself. So they said that my midwives can get in contact postpartum, basically, for that sort of support if I need it. We also had our 4D scan, which was a really, really nice experience. We did do the same thing with Max, so I don't know, I think he looks like Max maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I have moments where I'm like, yeah, he looks like him, and then other moments where I'm like, no, he doesn't. But he's got really chubby cheeks. So yeah, just adorable. Then we had our like telephone appointment with the consultant again. It was a new consultant, so it was a completely different person. And they wanted to follow up about the growth scan. This was kind of the appointment that kind of kicked everything into gear for us, and we was kind of like, I suppose, a bit more panicked about it all, and it was all very sort of scary and like what ifs and things like that. So basically in the appointment, we spoke about obviously like the placenta and the blood flow issues. She said that potentially the blood flow could be absolutely fine in the next scan, but she said that it could, at this point in the pregnancy, the placenta starts to deteriorate because you're so close to the end. So potentially it wouldn't get any better. So that was kind of like the first scary thing. She was talking about obviously the baby's growth. She's saying that obviously if baby's not growing at the rate that they need him to, or he stops growing completely, we would have to look at induction, emergency C-section if he's really distressed in the next scan. There was a lot of information that was kind of thrown around in the appointment. I mean, don't get me wrong, she was absolutely lovely. And she answered all my questions and things like that. Yeah, I know. She also explained that if baby goes under the 10th centile, that is what they class as a really small baby. And above the 90th centile, I think she said, is classed as a big baby. Be careful. So obviously we were sitting at the 14th centile, so she said like we are still within like what they class as normal range for a baby, but they just want to obviously keep an eye on it and monitor it. But yeah, she basically kind of said like, you know, if baby's really distressed in the next scan, or the blood flow issue has gotten a lot worse, he's obviously not going to get the nutrients that he needs to continue growing. So yeah, potentially we'd be looking at induction or C-section, emergency C-section, depending on how he does, basically. So yeah, it was kind of like, I was, 33 weeks at this point, and it was kind of like, oh, potentially I'm going to be having my baby next week. Yes? Yes? Where am I? Where was I? What was I saying? What was I saying? I don't remember. So yeah, it was kind of like all systems go. I hadn't even packed my hospital bag. I hadn't even bought everything for my hospital bag yet. But obviously we were being told that potentially, you know, if depending on baby, we would be having the baby at 34 weeks, depending on, you know, what his health was like and everything. She also said that babies born at 34 weeks, like the rates are quite good in terms of like their general health. Some babies don't need to spend much time in the NICU. But all of this in itself was very overwhelming, scary, panicky, you know, very stress-inducing. Just not knowing, I suppose, what on earth was going to happen. So you'll see in my next video, I actually did go out and get a few bits with my mum and dad for like the hospital bag and stuff. So that'll be probably the next video after this one that you guys will see. But yeah, so that was kind of that. I love you, Maximus. Is that I love you? I love you. Literally like 2 days after the consultant appointment, baby boy was not moving the way he normally was moving, and obviously that was the first thing that I was told to look out for and get checked straight away, because it could be that he's distressed or he's not well or, you know, whatever. So he had been moving, but it's like his kicks were just not as strong as they normally are. Are you going to get your baby? Baby, okay. Baby had been moving, but just like not as often and not as strong. Like his kicks and stuff were not just, they were just not as strong as they normally are. And I had actually had to go and get pick up some new glasses for myself. And we had gone out and come back, and I'd eaten and I had drank, and I was trying to make sure that I was doing everything that I normally would to try and get him to move, and still just not strong. So I called Harry and I was like, we need to go to the hospital. Harry left work straight away, came back. We literally loaded the car with absolutely everything, because obviously in the consultant appointment it was kind of like, well, if baby's distressed, potentially you'll be having the baby early. We literally had like Max's car seat for Max, the baby's car seat, we had the hospital bags, it's literally everything. Called my mum and dad met us at the hospital as well, so they literally just took Max and the car seat and his bits, and we went straight in, because we didn't know how long we was going to be or what was going to be happening. We didn't want them to be waiting at the hospital with Max for ages. So Max got to go and have a play with his cousin and his aunties, Nanny and Grandad. But yeah, we went in for reduced movement. They made me do a urine sample, that was all fine. I explained a bit about what had been going on with the consultants and scans and things like that. And then they put me on basically an observation machine. It's just like you have like these bands around your belly, and you have like a clicker every time baby moves. You click it basically. He passed all the observations, he was absolutely fine, and he started moving like normal. So that was like a massive relief, but you can imagine like the stress and panic and anxiety around it all, because you're just worrying like, what's going on with him and why is he not moving the same way that he normally was. The midwives did say that potentially it was just that he had moved in a different direction, you just couldn't feel the kicks as strong, and that might be the reason why. But yeah, he was all fine. Then we had our second growth scan at 34 and 2. Harry, again, he was like, I'm not going to let you go to that by yourself just in case, like, you know, they say, right, you're having the baby. Harry came, we left Max with my mum and dad again, and we went into the scan. I think both of us were really, really nervous, really obviously just did not know what was gonna be said, what they were gonna find, and I suppose scared as well that potentially we'd be having a baby at 34 weeks. That in itself was very scary. I was starting to get really uncomfortable. So I vacated to the bed now. Obviously we were both really nervous, really scared, not really, I suppose it's the unknown, like not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And then we kind of got near the end of the scan, and Harry asked the man and was just like, is there any blood flow issues? Like, is the blood flow like worse than last time, sort of thing? And the guy was like, he kind of pulled a face and he was like, no. He was like, there's no blood flow issue at all. He actually said that my blood flow was like above what they would deem as good, so it was excellent. And we asked about baby's growth, and he had gone up to the 34th percentile, so really, really good news. And I suppose it was really unexpected for us, because we kind of, from everything the consultant had said, and the specialist at the hospital, it was just kind of like potentially things were going to deteriorate and I was going to have baby boy early. So it gave me peace of mind to know that actually he is growing and there isn't a blood flow issue at the moment. And I suppose a bit confused as well, like how you can go from having a really bad blood flow issue to no blood flow issue when the consultant said what they said, basically. So I don't know, it was a bit all over the place. I was obviously very, very relieved. The day after the scan, I actually had a midwife appointment, and it was booked for a home visit, because for those of you that do know, it's on the list, guys, to film a birth story about Max's birth, but I had a home birth with Max and it was absolutely incredible. And I really, really want a home birth this time around with baby boy as well. I had a midwife appointment the day after the scan, and she said as long as he's growing continuously and he doesn't get any smaller or doesn't stop growing, and they don't pick any sort of blood flow issues up in the next scan, that potentially I will be allowed to have the home birth. We just need to review it after the next scan. So I actually have my 36-week scan tomorrow, so we will be finding out if we're going to have our home birth or not. You know, I've got something to compare birth to now, because obviously I've given birth at home and had a home birth, so the thought of going into hospital is a bit scary, I suppose, because it's a completely different environment. But obviously I will do whatever needs to be done for baby boy, for my safety, for his safety. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at in terms of our third trimester so far. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind. Hopefully tomorrow is all good news, and we'll actually get up the home birth that we want, or at least have the plans in place. I know births change within minutes sometimes, so you know, even if I've got the birth plan in place that potentially I'm gonna have a home birth at home, that will make me happy in itself. So yeah, but I'll go into more detail about it obviously once we have the scan, and update you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been a bit all over the place. I apologise for the absolute state of me as well. I'm absolutely exhausted, as you can imagine. In the last trimester now, I feel like we're on the home stretch, like really on the home stretch. I'm sure I said this in my second trimester video that we're on the home stretch, but that was like, I'm sure I filmed that when I was like 32, 33 weeks, but I'm now 36 weeks or whatever. So yeah, yeah, not long really. I've got so much content to edit for you guys as always, but you'll get it eventually. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you for the next one.